Hey guys, it's Joel from guntoter.org. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about ATAK, hammer, and Baofeng radios. And as you can probably guess from the title screen, it's not good. But before we get into that, if you go down in the corner, like, share, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you know when I post a new video. Also, if you could go down, check out our Patreon. If you could support us with a monthly contribution, that would be awesome. Everything that we do, we purchase everything we review. We do that because we're trying to give you the most bias-free review that we can, and also because if we are purchasing all our own stuff, we get to kind of control what we put out. It's not dictated to us by like sponsors, for example. So if you could help us out, that would be great. Now, with all that said, I'm going to give you the bottom line up front. I have not been able to get ATAK to work with Baofeng radios, at least not the newest versions of ATAK and the Baofengs I have. So if that is all you came here to see, you got the rest of the day off. And I could definitely use help with the whole Patreon page thing because I'm gonna have to buy new radios to keep trying to get this thing to work. Now, if you want the longer version, I'm gonna try to get through it. Now, please keep in mind, I am neither an expert comms guy nor am I an engineer. So if I get a little crazy on some stuff, I do apologize for that. So a little bit of background. What exactly is ATAK? ATAK is the Android Team Awareness Kit. And basically it's a situational awareness tool. A lot of people think it's like a nav tool. It's not really. ATAK is, think of it as one single app that through the use of plugins allows you to do a lot of the things that you would normally require separate apps for. Like you can control a drone from ATAK instead of having to have a drone app. You can text and do like group chat in ATAK instead of having to use a texting app. You can send waypoints and do like area clearance. Like if you're doing a search and rescue, you can go through and mark areas cleared and mark hazards. You can do that all within ATAK instead of having to do it in like 3 or 4 separate apps and then hope that you're keeping up with all of them. You can do it all in ATAK. So it is a situational awareness tool for managing, and it helps you to manage teams as well. So that's one of the reasons why I really want to get into ATAK because it has a lot of positive uses. So with that said, the reason, the way ATAK communicates, there's basically 3 ways that it can communicate with other people running ATAK. It can either communicate over a cellular or wireless network, which we kind of have to plan to not always have. It can communicate through like a mesh network, or it can communicate over radios. We're going to get into the mesh network. We're going to play with Meshtastic and LoRa and get into that in a future video. But the first thing I was going to try to do is get it to work over Baofeng radios. Why do I care about Baofeng radios? As I've always said previously, Baofengs are very, very popular. A lot of preppers have them. So if I can make ATAK work with the Baofeng, it kind of gets people in at that ground level without having to get into more expensive radios. Unfortunately, like I said, I've not been able to get that to work. So for ATAK to talk to a radio, not necessarily a Baofeng, really any radio, that is not one of the super cool government radios, which I obviously don't have, it needs a modem. And the modem in this case is a plugin called Hammer. It's the handheld acoustic modem for mobile exchanges over radios. Yeah, an engineer thought that one up. So if you're as old as I am, or if you're just familiar with dial-up modems, then the concept of Hammer is not that unusual to you. If you have never seen or heard an acoustic modem, you'll get to in a second. But basically, what Hammer does is it takes the data, converts it into sound waves, sends it to the radio, goes out over the air just like your voice would on a radio, gets picked up by the other radio and then converted back into data. And that is how it transfers over the radio. The problem that we seem to have with ATAK and Hammer and the Baofeng radio is that the Baofeng is not actually capable of handling the speed at which the data is being transferred. And ATAK has like a minimum threshold that if you go below it, it crashes. So we'll get into that in 1 second, but as promised, I will both play the melodic tones of Hammer for you, and I'll also show you the error message you get every time you try to use it. So hold on for that one, and you'll enjoy this. I hope that was as awesome for you as it was for me. For those of you who've never heard an acoustic modem before, yes, we used to live like that when we were trying to download things back in the 90s. So basically, Hammer is a really cool tool. There's a lot of settings as it's evolved over the years. There's a lot of settings that they have tried to put in there to tweak it, to make it work with a wide range of radios. Now, Hammer normally uses the voice-activated setting on the radio, the Vox setting. And there's some of the reasons they have so many different settings you can tweak is because some radios, you have to put in what's called padding. It shows in ATAK as padding, which basically is extra noise before the noise to make sure that your Vox is actually activated before it starts to send the data, because if there's not the padding, and it just tries to send the data, sometimes the Vox is a little slow to activate. And when that happens, the data gets cut off and you get bad transmission, corrupt data on the other end. The other thing is you can change the sampling rate. The default sampling rate on Hammer is 16,000. The lowest you can set it is 4,000, because trust me, at 3,999, Hammer and ATAK crash consistently, actually. Now, from way more time on Reddit and GitHub than I ever wanted to do, what it sounds like is that the technical capabilities of the Baofeng can't really handle a sampling rate of more than like 2,400. So you can see the problem here. If Hammer can't go below 4,000 and the Baofengs can't handle above like 2,400, we're kind of at an impasse right now. So as near as I can tell, I am not sure that we are going to be able to get Hammer and ATAK to run over your standard Baofeng UE5R BF F8HP style radios. Now, with that said, there's some experimenting I want to do beyond that. Oh, and by the way, before I move on to the experiments I want to do, if you know a way to make it work, I've seen some allusions to a thing called Slovox. I can't seem to find the actual file that you could install. Supposedly that will slow it down enough to actually transmit over Baofengs. But if you do know a way to make it work, then please correct me, because I would love for this to work with Baofengs. However, with that said, some of the experiments I want to do, I want to try digital radios, maybe the Baofeng/BTEC digital radios. And then I've also seen some other people talking about EF Johnsons and Motorola P25 XTSs. So I would like to get into those and experiment with those and see if I can make it work. Once again, because with Meshtastic and some of those mesh networks, you're going to get more range out of like a P25 radio, UHF, VHF, than you're going to get out of like LoRa, for example. Not all the time, but there's a decent chance of that, if you've got a team out and they're wanting to send back, you're going to be able to send back easier with a radio than you are with LoRa if you don't have enough nodes connecting, because it's a very it's ultra high frequency, but it's a very high UHF, and so the distance is typically much shorter than, say, a VHF radio, which you could do with like a P25 radio or something like that. So that's an experiment I want to get into, hence my begging for you to help me out with Patreon there, because they're not cheap. I am going to try to get on the budget side of digital radios, right? Like, I'm not trying to push everybody into a $1,000 radio. Obviously Baofengs, you know, depending on which model you get, are anywhere from $25 to $100. I'm going to try to keep the next radios I get under $250 each, because while that's obviously a significant increase over the cost of the Baofengs or the UV5Rs, it's not as cost prohibitive, right? Instead of buying another rifle, you buy a radio instead. So that's kind of that thought, is I'm gonna keep experimenting with radios, because I think being able to do ATAK over the air, over radios versus over LoRa or cell networks would be a very useful tool to have. And I wanna find the lowest cost, easily accessible radio that I can make it work with, and then get that information out so you guys can have that kind of in your decision-making matrix as you're thinking about it. So thanks for watching. Sorry that this was pretty much a complete downer as far as you know, success, but I'll also keep monitoring. Maybe they'll come up with a new version of Hammer and ATAK that work below 4,000. If it does, I'll keep trying with the Baofengs and see if I can make that work. I am going to keep experimenting with other radios, because again, I really want to make this work. So that's kind of where we're going with ATAK and radios. Also, in probably the next week, I'm going to teach myself how to solder so that I can assemble my Meshtastic T-beams, so we can play with ATAK and Meshtastic, and do some of the LoRa transmissions with ATAK. Again, because do you need ATAK to survive in a bad scenario? No. But ATAK can be an extremely useful tool, and it's a good tool to have. Whether you use it or not, it's a good tool to have available. So that's why I'm kind of playing around with that. Thanks for watching. Again, if you've got comments, if you do know how to actually make ATAK work over Baofengs, please put it in the comments, let me know. If you have further questions you'd like me to explore with it, if you have particular radios that maybe you want me to look at, I put them in the comments, and you know, depending on budget, I'll see what I can do. If you can help us out, again, yes, please. Radios are not quite as expensive as guns, at least not the ones I've played with yet, but they are expensive, and the budget's going quick. As always, I love interacting with you guys. Comments, suggestions, questions, anything, just hit me up, and I hope to see you again next time.